Logical reasoning, Indian logic, highly important topic, at least 5 to 6 questions every time. The questions are relatively simple, but you need to have a sound understanding. Now, all the fallacies we have covered separately. Here, the question says an elephant is an animal and therefore a small elephant is a small animal. So, this focuses only on elephant being an animal and not focuses on the idea of small, and therefore this is a fallacy of equivocation, because we are focusing on a phrase which is deliberately meant to confuse. So small here is meant to confuse, saying that if the elephant is small in size, this would be a small animal, but that is actually not the case. We are saying something else and we try to indicate or point out to someone something else, and therefore we focus here as a fallacy of equivocation. It's not because there is a wrong reason cited for it, it's not because our conclusions are irrelevant, and it's also not because of ignorance, right? The next is a very interesting question. Now this is a categorical syllogism question, right? I have saints, criminals and human beings. In the first statement I say all criminals are human beings. That means if there is any criminal, he would be a human being, he or she would be a human being. All saints are human beings, so all saints should be human beings. So I again shade this area. Now I say all saints are criminal. That's incorrect, because saints could be here, saints could be here. So some saints are criminal should be the correct answer. So this is a fallacy. But what kind of fallacy? This is a fallacy of undistributed middle term. Why? What is distributed, undistributed? If you remember, we have covered in our lectures, distributed is one where all or none follows. Undistributed is where some follows. So here technically some should have followed, but the answer which is given in the conclusion says all, and therefore there is a fallacy. Fallacy means a hitwabhas, which is indicating something else, but it should be something else in reality, right? And therefore we call it as a fallacy, and this is a fallacy of undistributed middle term, and therefore we have 3 as the right option here. The next question is, in a valid categorical syllogism, if a term is distributed in the conclusion, then it must be distributed in the premise. Definitely in the conclusion, if I am saying all or none, there should be all or none in the premise itself, because based on the 2 premise we have the conclusion, right? The conclusion is a valid argument which cannot assert any more information than contained in the premises. So whatever is there in the premises, I can say that follows in the conclusion, but I cannot say beyond what is there in the premise. So whatever there is in the premise, based on that only I can conclude. I cannot bring in extra information from the world and introduce it. So reason is correct as well as assertion is correct, and reason also explains the assertion correctly, and therefore both of them are true, and R is the correct explanation for assertion. And that's one of the reasons why, if the premise is distributed, the conclusion must be distributed. The next is the Nyaya system. Now Nyaya system focuses on what? Nyaya system focuses on 4 important aspects. What are those? Those are Shabd, which is the verbal testimony, Upaman, which is the comparison, Anuman, which is the inference, and Pratyaksh, which is the sensation. It does not talk about Arthpatti. Nyaya system reduces Arthpatti to an inference of Anvay type. Anvay means a logical connection, but Nyaya system does not talk about Arthpatti, so it does not reduce it, right? What talks about Arthpatti is the Mimamsa. So statement 2 is incorrect, statement 1 is correct here. Statement 1 is true, 2 is false is the right option. Clear? So those are some of the correct concepts that we have discussed here. As we saw, lots and lots of questions are asked on fallacies these days, but for fallacies you must be conceptually very sound in order to attempt it. And also sometimes, not in this paper, previously we had seen in last year, the questions were so that they were comparing Western fallacy with Indian Hetvabhas. So which Western fallacy contemplates to which Indian Hitvabhas? And that's a very tricky question, but a very interesting question. So if you have gone through the lectures carefully, you should be able to attempt any and all such kind of questions. Wish you very good luck. Have a wonderful day ahead.